Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I will start a new project where we will build an app in the end that will allow us to practice on some different wordings, Chinese words specifically. And the reason why I'll be creating this app is because I want to create something that's useful for myself and also something where I think a bunch of people can learn something. Okay. So on the right side here, you can see I have a course that I'm about to start. So I finished textbook 1. I want to go move on to textbook 2. And you can see here for each lesson, we have a bunch of vocabulary that we need to learn. So it would be pretty great if I could get all these words inside my app that I want to learn for this course. And yeah, you can see we have 20 lessons in total. So there's quite a bit here. But yeah, let's see if we can extract these words and then use those words in our app. Okay? Okay, cool. So if we just maximize this window for a moment and have a look in VS Code, I'm currently in an empty folder here. And yeah, first thing I want to do in here is actually to create two folders. Okay? So the first folder is going to be where my app will be, and the other one is going to be where I'm going to be doing some backend stuff. But this app, I'm actually going to use Deno, so I'm going to call this folder Deno instead of Node. Okay, so let's jump into this folder to begin with, and then just create an index.ts file. So I understand if you haven't used Deno before, this is actually my first time using it. And yeah, I believe it's a pretty good use case to use it. Like, I just want to create some scripts and I don't want to fiddle around too much with some TypeScript setup. I just want things to work. Okay. So if this is the first time you are using Deno, just you can install it using brew. So brew install Deno and you're good to go. If you don't have Brew, just check out the docs. Just Google Deno installation and you figure out how to install it for your system. Okay? All right, so after we create our index.ts file, we need to start creating basically the script so we can grab those words that we would like to learn. Okay, so first things first is figuring out how we get these words, and by let me just open Postman here. So if I open up Postman here, you can see I created this HTTP request um, with this address and a bunch of IDs, and basically by reading the network tab, I figured out how I can um, grab these words. So in my script, I just need to do an HTTP request with the different IDs that of the words that I would like to learn. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool. So um, yeah, let's jump back into the project here. So let's start off by creating our main function, you could say. So let's just call it main here. And inside our main function, we would like to make an HTTP request. And we don't only want to make one HTTP request, we want to make one for each volume here, right? So let's just create a function that does that. So let's call it const get words. And in here, we're gonna expect that we get some IDs, right? So let's just say that's a string, okay? And in here we can do um, fetch. So in Deno we have access to browser APIs such as fetch, so no need to bring in any additional stuff here. So we can just write our fetch, and then we can put in our path here. All right. So one thing that is common for each fetch request is the base URL. So let's type this one in here. Looks like this. And let's put it here in our fetch, and then plus the path that we pass to get words, okay? So the path here is just going to be our IDs, basically. So instead of path, we could even just change this name to IDs, just to make it a little more neat. All right. So after we do our fetch request, we we do have some data here, and this data we need to transform that into a JSON object. And for that, we need to call JSON on our response. Okay. Now this data is just going to be any, and that's a little bit of an issue. So what we can do is, if we go back to Postman, we can actually copy paste this JSON and then go to a URL called JSON to TypeScript. And in here, we can copy paste this, and then we can generate some TypeScript types. All right. And these, I'm going to put them in another file. I'm going to call it types.ts. I'm going to move it into Deno. And then I'm going to copy paste these types in here. And for these types, I'm just going to remove the namespace. And I'm going to be fixing this one, which is a little buggy because we have some dashes in here. So we need to make sure that we have this apostrophe around it, these quotes. Okay. All right. Now, after copying from this website, I like to rename the root object to something that makes sense. So here I'm just going to call it Skritter, which is our website, and just call it payload. Okay. All right. Now we can jump back to our index.js file, and now we can actually grab that type. So if you go up here, we can do import, then we can do Skritter payload from types.ts. All right. Now we do get some error message here. That is because we didn't really set up our environment to Deno. To do that quickly, we can make a folder out here called underscore VS Code, and in here we can create a JSON file called settings, and then just copy paste this in deno.enable.true. So now we should get rid of that error message. Now it knows we are in Deno space. Okay, good stuff. And yeah, probably we should move this one into the Deno folder because we're not necessarily in Deno space in the app folder, right? Does seem like it's erroring out after I move it. So for now, I'm just gonna move it back, and then we can solve it later. Okay, so after importing it, I can assign data to scritter payload. Okay, let's just do a reload as well. So here we can do TypeScript restart TS server, and that should solve our typing problem. All right. So this looks a little funny. Let's see. Okay, at least now our data is typed. So that's what we want, really. So now we can just go through each item here. And let's just try to log out something just to see if it works. Data dot vocabs, right? This is where we have our stuff. And now I can just log out the word. So with the writing. Okay. Now when I run this, I should be getting an error. So oops, it's not yarn. So when you run a Deno program, you need to do Deno run a, and then we don't think we need unstable flag here. You can just do index.ts. Let's try it. Oh. All right, we need to make sure we call get words. Let's create our main function again here. Oops, const main. Gonna be an async function. And here we're gonna call get words. And down here I'm gonna call main. Okay. Now we do expect to get these IDs, and I haven't defined these IDs yet. And I'm just gonna be copy pasting in all the IDs here because it takes quite well, not too long time, but yeah, going through all these pages to figure out what the different IDs are it's gonna take a few minutes, and I'm not gonna do that in this video, so I'll copy paste them in here. Okay, so for this first one, we can just pass in the first ID just as a test. So now we should be able to Deno run. And you can see we are getting an issue here. So probably our fetch request failed, and it should fail because we are missing something in the fetch request, and that is our authorization header. And here we're going to put in our authorization header. I'm just going to put in mine, temporary one here. Just make it like this. All right, let's try to call Deno again. All right, so it seems like we're getting some of the words here. You can see the first word is this TNT. So that is indeed the first one here. Okay, cool. So that's working. Let's just move this one down a little bit. Okay, cool. Now here I'm just picking up the first one. So ideally I want to loop here so I can get all the IDs. And let's do that. All right. Now we can loop through all these IDs and then get all the words. Cool stuff. Now let's actually add a global array here. I'm gonna call it items. And in here, we are gonna push the relevant fields. And what I'm interested in is gonna be the word. So that's gonna be item dot writing. And then I'm also interested in the translation, right? Because I want to know what it means. And I can find the translation under item dot definitions. This one might be optional, I think, even though the typing doesn't say it. So I'm just going to put this question mark here and do .en, okay? Now, if we do item dot, we can see there's also some other stuff here, like created, band parts, audio, ID, other things here that might be interesting. Like for example, the ID might be good to have, so I'm just gonna grab that one as well. All right. So now I am getting all the words, pushing into this global items array. When I'm done here, I kind of want to write all my words to a file. How do you do that in Deno? Well, in Deno, we have this namespace called Deno. And under here, we can do a write file or write text file, actually, I believe. And then you put in a path. And for me, it's going to be where I am, and then I'm going to call it data.json. And here I want to put in a stringified version of my items array. Yes, and now it's complaining about this items has an any type. That's true, right? Because we didn't actually define this type yet. So let's do that quickly. So here type, I'm just going to call it a word, word entry perhaps. And the word entry is going to have an ID, which I assume is a number, but let me check here. It is a string, so string, and I'm gonna have a word, which is gonna be a string. I'm gonna have a translation, it's also gonna be a string. So now we can do items is gonna be a word entry array. Okay, now we got rid of this error message and looking good. Let's try to run Deno here to see if we can populate this data.json. Okay, you can see it's logging some symbols here, so it's definitely running right now. But we don't know how far we are, so we just give it a wait from now on. All right, so now we have the data.json here. You can see stuff is not really formatted, but if you press save, we do get everything looking nicely here. And yeah, I think it's pretty good. We have 3,000 something lines here, so this is all the words that we want to learn. And we can use these words in our app now.